Globalization is awesome! I've really missed traveling. Our time will come. A surprising number of my audience, my subscribers, my followers, my fans are international. And I think it's wrong to assume that everyone who cares about investment banking is American because Wall Street is in America, investment banking is an American thing. Reality is, globally, everyone understands that investment banking is this cool thing to get into. And it seems like a lot of the comments below ask, how can I become an investment banker if I'm an international student? Can you break into investment banking if you're an international student? What are steps I need to take to become an investment banking analyst, associate, MD as an international student? Quick disclaimer, I am a US citizen and I went through the US school system, went to a semi-US target school, so I definitely can't speak on the experiences of an international student to break into banking. Fair warning, this entire video might just be false and me assuming things, me not understanding the actual hardships that international students go through. However, I do have international students who have tried to break into investment banking, have broken into investment banking. I also personally know of investment bankers who started or are even currently internationals and not of US citizenship or permanent residency. Once again, disclaimer, I'm not an international student. I didn't recruit for investment banking as an international student. I'm not a lawyer. I don't know much about law regarding international world or law in general as a banker, but this is just based on what I've seen, those around me, and what I've heard in the banking world as it pertains to international students. It's important to get the thing that no one really wants to say out of the room. It's definitely hard to break into banking in general, but it's even harder, probably, definitely, to be an international student and break into banking. And I think this pertains to both types, where if you're literally an international student, so you're studying the US, but you don't have US citizenship and you don't have a US permanent residency, and you're living here based off a student visa, there's legal visa identity complications that I personally know of. Not all companies sponsor international students to work at their company. I know for a fact that my firm does not sponsor internationals. It makes it a clear point when they recruit that it's hard for internationals to work at our firm because we don't sponsor them. I'm obviously not aware of how sponsorship works or the legality behind sponsoring an international to work somewhere. I am aware though, through experience, through my friends who are international students, that there is something called an OPT, or the time that you have post-graduation allowed by your visa that allows you to work a couple of years. I think it's 2 years to 5 years, depending on the type of degree you have. Quick note here, I do also know that if you graduate a STEM degree, you get a bit of a lengthened stay versus if you have a humanities degree, because the world is just unfair like that and STEM is king now. Not really. Fight in the comments below. Humanities versus STEM. STEM's kind of king right now. Long story short, if you're amidst recruitment, I think the biggest bucket, the biggest issue, the biggest elephant in the room that people need to address is whether or not these companies sponsor your visa, your status in this country, and whether or not that's going to enable you to stay here longer. I would assume bigger companies with bigger infrastructure and ability to sponsor correlate. So if you're an international student, and I think I can actually speak from experience that a lot of my friends who are international students that have become bankers or even other fields that have stayed here typically go towards the bigger companies because they have the capability to sponsor students. I also might be completely wrong here. It is my understanding that not all companies sponsor. You'll also notice this when you apply for things. The fourth or fifth question after they ask you what your gender is, whether you're Hispanic or Latino, what your race is, if you have a disability, if you're a veteran, there's always a question, do you need sponsorship in the future? That's what this relates to. So make sure when you're recruiting, the company that you're recruiting for has the capabilities / offers sponsorship. I think on a more happy note, and just the way that the world is going, and let's take COVID aside, but even through COVID, I think the world has become even more globalized. Banks have realized that it's fully capable to jump on the phone and you don't have to go somewhere in person. And on Zoom, you could meet international clients, you could work with those abroad and far away, and it works well. A part of that is having that international presence and having the diversification of thought, of origins, of background, and having those different ideas, those different entities, those different people within your firm so that you can mesh well together and bring those cultures together. I recently heard a banker that I respect say that a lot of times deals fall through not because the numbers don't work out, not because the companies don't like each other, but because cultures don't blend well together. There's a lot of issues with cultures coming together. I think banks definitely see the value in that, and companies as a whole in 2020 and 2021, which is right around the corner. What a year this has been. I think there's true value, and banks especially see the true value in bringing together international thought, a wide variety of thought, and placing that high talent from various countries into their firm so that they have that idea of having that person from China, having that person from India, having that person from Italy, having that person from Korea, having that person from Mexico, all together at the firm so that you can bounce around different ideas. And if you have clients from those areas, it's going to be easier to have someone that has an understanding of that culture, of that background, of that country atmosphere working for you so that you can gain that interest, gain that client base, and have that synergy opportunity to have the variety of thought come together at your disposal. So I think being international should never be seen as a negative. As I said before, obviously there's legal visa complications, but I think if anything, you can really use that as your forte and say, I have the American background, I've gone through American schooling to a certain degree, through college or even high school, I have that international route based on where I'm from, and I can offer that to the firm, a piece you might not have with an only American employee base. I do think these two previous points focus around the idea that you're an international student in the United States, so whether or not you came to a boarding high school or you came to college post your education in your original country, this does assume that you are already an American student, and that I think infinitely makes it easier than if you're recruiting for an American firm if you're abroad currently. I will say I don't know of any personal examples in my age range that have recruited successfully out of a different country into an American firm. I think a couple of important things to note here is that one, a lot of companies, and I'm not sure how the physical branch placement will become in 2021 as companies are trying to consolidate their corporate offices, but ideologically, companies are really trying to expand their international presence. It's important to have international roots, international connections throughout so that you can expand your buyer universe, your client base. So a lot of globally based firms or firms who are now trying to become global have offices everywhere. The United States is not the end-all be-all to investment banking. It is the focus of investment banking. Wall Street is Wall Street, but many firms have offices globally. And I think, if anything, it might be easier to approach an American firm that's based in your area rather than trying to get to the headquarters of the American firm on Wall Street. You might get a different experience. I'm sure you'll get a different experience. But if investment banking is your goal, a lot of these American companies that have the global presence, I think try to do a good job of bringing the company together, having that feeling of unity within the company firm culture. And especially now with Zoom being prevalent and people being able to work from remotely, your location is truly not mattering anymore. And if anything, I think it opens up doors for internationals. I hope the term international is not derogatory. Of those that are working internationally to not only focus on American soil jobs, but roles that could be remote, roles that could be in the satellite offices, as they say, but still have the American investment banking experience or investment banking experience if that's what you're looking for. A couple of smaller points that I'm aware of just from what I've heard. Obviously, I think the money in investment banking is focused around the United States. I am objectively aware that other offices in other countries have lower compensation, but I think that's also paired probably with better hours. I know for a fact that a lot of European countries have specific laws that prohibit overworking. Some Asian countries even have those laws. And hopefully I'm not misquoting this, and hopefully I'm not demeaning the hard work of others. Not to say hours correlate with hard work, but I do know that countries like France have like a mandatory summer break. Investment bankers in America could only dream about. There's ups and downs, pros and cons to both, but it is an important point that other countries tend to have lower compensation, sometimes by a lot compared to their American counterparts. A couple of countries outside of the United States that I know for a fact are finance hubs are Germany, the United Kingdom, Singapore, China, Brazil is also up and coming, and I'm sure lots and lots of countries that I did not mention outside of the United States have banking presence, have a finance presence, and if you're in those countries, don't feel down if you can't get that American job, because I think there's plenty of opportunities abroad, and it's only growingly so with this new normal. Those are my thoughts on international students approaching investment banking, breaking into investment banking. Obviously a limited scope as I'm not an international student. I don't have personal experience, but based on what I've seen living vicariously through my friends, vicariously, that's just what I've experienced. This is gonna sound corny, but if you are an international student trying to break into investment banking and you feel like it's particularly hard, it is because it is hard. All power to you guys. Keep going at it. Happy to answer any questions to the extent that I can be helpful. Comments below as always. Thanks again. Next week, we will return with another interview video. As always, see you guys in a jiffy.
How many, what's like the storage?
On this?
On this.
I have a SD card in there. I think it's like 64 gigabytes, which is not that much. Because like a 30-minute video is like, are you nervous?
I'm good.
Okay. I'm gonna do like YouTuber talk. Don't make fun of me.
No, go ahead. I have to do that too.
Hey everybody, it's episode 3 of Brian Interviews. Today I have my good friend all the way from middle school actually, Shinya Kadono. He was in my Week of the Life video 3 weeks ago, and today we're going to interview him about his life as a professional soccer player, his path here, all the way. I want to ask him starting elementary school, but he just started a YouTube channel. I will promote it now. Links down below. Go subscribe. Go subscribe to Shinya Kadono. He has a fair number of videos already. That covers his life, training, etc. So go check him out, especially if you're interested in soccer, a professional career in sports, etc. Shinya, welcome to the Brian Show.
All right.